Have you ever played Silent Hill 4? If not, then you better skip this video due to spoilers. However, if you did play the game and have questions about it, then this might be the right video to find the answers. In Silent Hill 4, the game, there are a total of 21 sacraments or victims in Walter's ritual. However, players were introduced with only a couple of them, and the other victims were never shown in the game and are only mentioned in the files and storylines. This video will introduce you to those never shown poor souls. This is the 21 sacraments.
Final sign, the receiver of wisdom.
Mom, I'm home. I won't let anyone get in my way. I'm gonna stay with you forever.
I don't know where to start. There was this strange hole in my room. I saw people getting killed. All these weird other worlds. And I saw you get attacked too.
That kid Walter. He was really into that mumbo jumbo.
Well, he's dead now. But he's still trying to complete the 21 sacraments.
Within the town of Silent Hill is a religious cult called the Order. The cult is a primary source of struggle for most Silent Hill games, and are responsible for many of the happenings in the town, including Alessa Gillespie's immolation and the well-known Pyramid Head, who is an iconic figure of judgment and punishment of the Order's mythos. The Order often resorts to murder, kidnapping, torture, and other acts of violence to meet its needs. They are also responsible for Walter Sullivan's descent into madness. Walter Sullivan was born in Town Ashfield in room 302 of South Ashfield Heights. His parents didn't want him and abandoned him alone in 302. Found by Frank Sunderland and sent to an orphanage called the Wish House, which is actually a religious cult, he never got to see his parents. Walter Sullivan began believing what the Order told him and became religious himself. Jeorge Rosten, a member from the Order, introduced the 21 sacraments to Walter, and this is where insanity took place. Fooled that his mother is actually the room where he was born, and that the 21 sacraments is a ritual that can unite him with her, Walter began his murderous rampage. Victim number 1, Jimmy Stone. Jimmy Stone was a priest in the Baltiel sect, a division of the Order. He was nicknamed the Red Devil, as he was the one who did the punishing and the judging in the cult. Some gamers believe that he is also the iconic Pyramid Head. Walter Sullivan shot him in the back of the head inside the Wish House orphanage, and then removed his heart. Just like all other victims in the game, Stone left an item behind that acts as a piece of his memory in Walter's other worlds, which is a shred of scripture found in the area where he was murdered. Jimmy Stone is known as Victim 1 in the game, and his ghost is encountered more often than others in many other worlds and promos. Victim number 2, Bobby Randolph. Bobby Randolph was a college student who attended the same school as Walter. He and two of his friends, St. Martin and Jasper Gain, were trying to learn more about the Order, and their curiosity led them to their death. Sullivan strangled Bobby to death, removed his heart, and dumped his body on the college campus in Pleasant River. He left behind a book about occultism found at the crime scene. Victim number 3, St. Martin. Like his friend Bobby Randolph, St. Martin was also interested in the legend surrounding the Order, and his curiosity likely led him to his death. Walter Sullivan strangled him to death, removed his heart, and dumped his body on the college campus in Pleasant River alongside Bobby Randolph. His contribution to Walter's world is a small camera found at the crime scene. Victim number 4, Steve Garland. Steve Garland operated a pet store in Ashfield named Garland. His murder was particularly gruesome, after Walter Sullivan riddled his body with bullets from a submachine gun, while of course leaving his chest undamaged so that his heart could be removed. He proceeded to brutally kill all the animals in the store. His ghost takes the most damage before being stunned out of the original ghost. The item left behind is a small shovel found at the murder spot. Victim number 5, Rick Albert. Rick Albert was the manager of the sporting goods store in Ashfield, Albert's Sporting Goods. Walter Sullivan, possibly a part-time employee at the store, bludgeoned him to death with the golf club and removed his heart. Rick was murdered on the same day as Steve Garland. His item left behind is a volleyball, which is later used by Henry Townshend as a key to leave the building world. Victim number 6, Jeorge Rosten. Jeorge Rosten was a priest in the Baltiel sect and the right-hand man of Jimmy Stone. He personally instructed Walter Sullivan on the 21 Sacraments, then ironically fell victim to his own teaching when Sullivan beat him to death with an iron pipe and removed his heart. Jeorge Rosten's memory is represented by a scripture of the Baltiel sect found at the spot. Victim number 7, Billy Locane. Billy Locane was a child living in Silent Hill and was the twin brother of Miriam Locane. Walter Sullivan killed him with a single blow from an axe and removed his heart. He was killed in front of the Locane house in Silent Hill. Billy's item is one of his shoes found at the crime scene. Victim number 8, Miriam Locane. Miriam Locane was the twin sister of Billy and was killed just after her brother. Unlike Billy, who was killed with a single blow from an axe, Walter Sullivan brutally dismembered Miriam's body before removing her heart, most likely due to his violent misogyny. Unlike Sullivan's other victims, Billy and Miriam do not appear as ghosts, but rather fuse together as a monster which is known as twin victims. She and her brother were killed in front of the Locane house in Silent Hill. Her item left behind is some of her hair. Victim number 9, William Gregory. William Gregory owned the watch and clock store in Ashfield. William was famous for his skills with clock and watch work. 16 years prior to the game, a middle-aged man, possibly Walter Sullivan, left him a watch. William realized it wasn't a normal watch, but didn't understand why. William had a strange dream about the 4 reminiscences that appeared later in the game. Walter Sullivan stabbed him with a screwdriver and removed his heart. His contribution to Walter's world is a flat screwdriver found at the murder spot, possibly the same one Walter used to kill him. Victim number 10, Eric Walsh. Eric Walsh is the final victim of Walter Sullivan's initial rampage. Walsh worked as a bartender at Bar Ashfield. On his birthday, a middle-aged customer told him that the pet store owner, Steve Garland, was murdered, and the murderer was still at large, causing the bar's owner to close the bar early. Walsh then went home, only to find Sullivan waiting for him. Sullivan shot him in the face and removed his heart. His memory is represented as a billiard ball the player later uses to escape from the building world. At one point in the game, Henry Townshend enters a room with a birthday cake, champagne, party streamers, and Eric Walsh's ghost pinned on the ground with the Sword of Obedience. Victim number 11, Walter Sullivan. After his capture, it was believed that Sullivan committed suicide in his jail cell by stabbing himself in the neck with a spoon that severed his carotid artery, and that his body was buried in an unmarked grave near the Wish House. However, after the first copycat murder, his grave was exhumed and was discovered to be empty. It was not clear what happened to him until late in the game, where Henry finds out. Victim number 12, Peter Walls. Peter Walls was the first of Walter Sullivan's post-mortem victims. Walls was a notorious drug addict known for his crazed ranting. His body was found in a room in Hotel South Ashfield some 6 months after his death. He had apparently been beaten to death after he claimed he could see God. His item left behind is a marijuana joint found in an alley near the Hotel South Ashfield. Victim number 13, Sharon Blake. Sharon Blake had been a target of the Order for some time. Her family had all been taken in by the Order, but she refused a request to join. When she went looking for her family in the woods near Silent Hill, she discovered her family's gravestones, at which point Walter Sullivan caught her and drowned her in the lake. Sharon's item is her black cat found at the crime scene. Her ghost is considered the weakest of the victims and the second most common. Victim number 14, Toby Archbolt. Toby Archbolt was a priest of the Holy Mother sect of the Order, which operated the Wish House. After the death of Jimmy Stone and Jeorge Rosten and the subsequent weakenings of the Ballatiel sect, Archbolt tried to increase the influence of his own sect within the Order. During a trip to Mexico, Walter Sullivan pushed Toby off of a cliff, making him the only victim in the series to be killed outside of the United States. His item is an old picture book found at the murder spot. Victim number 15, Joseph Schreiber. Joseph Schreiber is the journalist who was the previous owner of Room 302 before Henry. He is the one who had written all the pages of the Red Diary. He was investigating what was going on. Although the means of his murder and location of his body are officially unknown, Joseph apparently never made it out of his room and became Walter's 15th victim. Upon reaching Room 302 of the past, a black and white room covered in holy candles, the player is finally confronted with Joseph's ghost, an upside-down shadow merged with Room 302 ceiling. What is also interesting is that in the beginning of the game, the player is greeted to a first-person view of the haunted apartment room. What's interesting about this is that during the sequence, the player is able to examine certain items in the room, which the controlled character will comment on. Notably, a picture of Henry Townshend, which the control character apparently doesn't recognize. Later in the game, some of the comments made by the control character are visible on certain Red Diary entries from Joseph Schreiber. Thus, it is commonly thought that in the beginning of the game, the player is actually controlling Schreiber as opposed to Henry. Another interesting theory is that when the player is controlling Joseph Schreiber, the segment ends with Jimmy Stone entering room 302 through the wall and crawling towards Joseph, causing him to groan in agony and collapsing to the ground. It's theorized that this is actually the demise of Schreiber, who was killed by Stone. Victim number 16, Cynthia Velasquez. Cynthia Velasquez was a woman of Spanish-American heritage. She does not live at South Ashfield, but she had encountered Walter before at her younger age. It was when Walter returned to Ashfield. He wasn't able to enter apartment 302, so he had to sleep in the subway station near the building. That is where Cynthia and her friends used to hang out. She had seen him a couple of times there. Cynthia was murdered in the subway station, stabbed multiple times by Walter, but was left behind at the scene of crime and scattered contents from her purse. Victim number 17, Jasper Gain. Jasper Gain was a somewhat mentally unbalanced youth. Along with his friends Bobby Randolph and St. Martin, Jasper was fascinated by the mythology of the Order. While exploring the ruins of the Wish House, Walter Sullivan immolated Gain, who seemed almost appreciative of the act. Gain is set on fire in the Wish House remains, and he calls out that he had seen the red devil he had been searching for. Jasper carves the number 17121 into his own chest with an altar candle and then collapses, finally perishing from the burns. His ghost, which is still on fire, haunts the forest world. His item for Walter's world is the same bottle of chocolate milk Henry gave him before he died. Victim number 18, Andrew DeSalvo. Andrew DeSalvo is a nervous middle-aged man. DeSalvo was employed by the Order as a guard at the Wish House and the Water Prison, although he was apparently not a member of the Order himself. In the Water Prison, he was abusive toward the children there. It is hinted at the Forest World's Stone Diaries that he killed young Walter Sullivan's childhood friend, Bob, and made him drink water with leeches in it. Andrew is disturbed by the presence of young Walter, and is last seen drowned as Walter's 18th victim. When Henry returns to the Water Prison, he has to fight DeSalvo's ghost to acquire a key. His item is a bloody shirt Henry finds at the prison's death chamber, where Andrew was killed. He uses this shirt later on to uncover a message needed to move forward. Victim number 19, Richard Braintree. Richard lived in room 207 of South Ashfield Heights. He was an eccentric, somewhat violent, and possibly sadistic man who carried a revolver along with him. Remembering Joseph Schreiber's sudden disappearance, he becomes concerned when he noticed the same thing happening again in room 302. When Walter Sullivan traveled to South Ashfield Heights as a small child, Richard often noticed him. He was suspicious of Walter and was often aggressive with him, as he believed Walter didn't belong there. Richard was electrocuted in an electric chair, with 19-21 carved into his forehead. His item left behind is his trademark revolver, which Henry later uses as a weapon. Victim number 20, Aileen Galvin. Aileen Galvin is the neighbor of Henry. She lives in room 303. Aileen had seen Walter once when she was a little child in the train station, giving him a doll as a present. Later in the game, Walter comes back to the building to kill Aileen. He was carrying the same doll. Walter brutally beats Aileen, but she's able to survive thanks to Henry. The item left in the crime scene is a purse. Victim number 21, Henry Townshend. Henry Townshend is the main protagonist. He's the last sacrament of the 21 Sacraments ritual, and is given the title receiver of wisdom. Also, he witnessed some of the murders by Walter. Henry moves to South Ashfield to start a new life, only to find himself trapped in the terrors of an already dead serial killer. It is said that apartment 302 is supposed to be the memory of the crime, but Henry manages to avoid Walter's attempts of murder, leaving them both to a one final showdown. The 21 Sacraments is a twisted and insane way to do a ritual in order to fulfill perhaps wrong beliefs.